Wibbly here from Wisconsin. This is part 5 to how to raise responsible children. I wasn't going to have a part 5, but this come to me, so here we go. Let's talk about the decisions you make when you're planning on having a child. So my recommendation would always to be, you want that to be planned and not... I believe your family life is going to start off far, far better if you get married and you plan to have children with the person that you marry. And you could have done your planning while you're dating and talk about having children, but you wait until marriage and you don't just date and then accidentally have a baby and then decide to get married anyhow because things are working out good. We've been living together for the last 2-3 years. I really think that sets you up. It gets you started off on the wrong foot for maybe one of the most important decisions in your life ever. It sets up a culture of avoiding responsibility. So it happens, mistakes can happen. I'm not saying, I'm not saying you're a terrible person if that is what happened. But I'm saying that isn't the best way to start out. The best way is going to be to take accountability for your actions, take responsibility. Understand what true love is before you get married. Don't fall for the Hollywood bullshit where it's all about your feelings and passions and you just run wild with that. That'll set you up for lots of heartache, probably. So, in our country, we have a big culture of responsibility avoidance. Everybody wants to avoid their responsibilities. So you have a lot of people who are getting married, having kids, or having kids and then getting married, or just having kids and not getting married. But throughout that child's upbringing, there's this air of resentment towards the children. Because me as an adult, I can't go do the fun things I want to do because I have this child. Now, I'm fairly responsible. I take care of the child, feed the child, send them to school, get them clothes, teach them things. But I don't do a good job of keeping my resentments hidden. Doesn't mean you totally resent the child. You can love the child to death and resent them at the same time, because I've seen this where people, they truly do love their children, but they never quite got over that part of themselves that doesn't want the responsibility, because they probably didn't even plan this responsibility. They just got pregnant and now they have a responsibility, and a lot of people don't do a good job of hiding that resentment from their children, and they don't learn to accept it fully and step into it all the way 100%. These children are my responsibility and my family, and I love them and I'm going to put everything into them. They can't hide that sense of resentment, and that child grows up knowing mom and dad love me, but at the same time they resent the fact that I exist and they have to take care of me, because if I wasn't here, they could just go do all the fun stuff they ever dreamed of. And it sets that child up to have this emotional damage where you always feel like you're in the way, and you're probably going to set up a culture where it gets passed down year after year after year with all this resentment. And in these types of relationships, what often happens is couples always have to have date nights away from their children just to have fun. I'm not a fan of that idea. I have watched so many videos on relationship experts and advice, and a lot of the advice is like, oh, you're struggling, you're having a hard time. Okay, well, take a break from the kids, drop them off somewhere, and you and the husband or you and the wife just go have the time of your life. I believe that is avoiding the full responsibility of your children when you have little children. Why is that? You can have romance in your everyday, day-to-day life with your wife and your children present. Romance does not have to be overtly, openly sexual. Romance can just be you and your wife being kind and loving to each other, not sniping at each other, taking turns with the children when one person's patience is running out, making time for each other in the little things. I'll help you, you help me. Okay, you got done with that task, but I'm still working at this, so you come over and we work together and we finish this thing. You can talk about things, you can talk about the future, you can talk about the kids' future, you can do all these things and not talk about hopelessness. You want to set up a culture in your home where everyone helps each other, where there's no let's just put that off. You love each other, you respect each other, you demand that the children respect each other and respect boundaries, and you demand that the children respect your wife and you. They don't overstep the boundaries. You set up a culture of love and respect in your own home, and you will not feel like you need to escape. And many of these relationship experts advise them to go away. Yes, you're going to feel good for a little while, but then you're going to go right back to this culture that you set up as a parent that you can't stand to live in. That's why you need to get away. Because you set up a culture you can't stand to be in 24/7. I'm not saying kids are not difficult. Relationships are difficult. It's not just children. Believe me, my children, being children, do childish things. They drive me up the wall sometimes. But my wife and I have set up a culture inside of our home where we love to be home. We love to be surrounded by our children. We don't feel right when we go do something fun without our children. Because I can't stand that look of disappointment and heartbreak in my children's eyes. And some people are like, well, they better get used to it because life sucks. You know what, buddy? Whoever thinks like that, I'm not going to say what I want to say. Yeah, life's going to be hard, so why don't you start beating on your kids now so they get used to it? That's just stupid. If your kids see you loving your wife in the home and showing her love day after day after day after day, they are going to see that, and as adults, they are going to emulate it to the best of their ability. If you don't know how to be nice and kind unless you go on a romantic date, you've set up a culture in your home that you need to change. So, a lot of parents, this culture of our country, it's got people's mindset wrong. You know, that's why when you're starting out your marriage, you hopefully you plan to have kids and you've thought it through. This is a commitment. When you have children, it's a lifetime commitment. If you want to be a great parent, father or mother, having children should be a lifetime commitment. Now, hopefully, you're not making their breakfast and wiping their ass for the rest of their life or the rest of your life. You want to set them up to be responsible adults. But I don't like this avoidant culture where it's like, as soon as you're 18, you are out of here. I don't want. Oof, it's just so much work. You're on your own. Well, what if you set up a culture where the older they get, the more responsibility they accept? And somebody might be ready to move out at 18. They are frothing out the bit to do their own thing. And then the next child is a much slower to develop up here. And they are very responsible. They're home. They're helping you, they have their own job, but they're just not ready to go yet until they're 26, possibly 30. That is not a terrible thing. Unless the only reason is if they're just living off of you, that's a bad thing. But you, as a parent, still have a role when your children are married and moved out. If you set up the right culture, you can have a leadership role. You can help siblings get along in your family. You can possibly be a person that your children still come to you for life advice and things if you set it up right. If you don't, nobody's gonna, if you do it wrong, your kids won't want to hear one word you say. They'll listen to anybody but you. So it all depends on you and the culture you set up in your home. And if your kids are growing up into people you just can't stand to be around, that's your own fault as a leader. You need to work on you until you have grown a culture inside of your own family where you just can't wait to get back home. The responsibility falls on you as a parent. Don't avoid your responsibility. When you're first planning to get married, plan to have children, think these things through. This is a huge commitment. Those kids are going to need me every day of their life for many, many, many years. And if you have multiple children, it can be 20, 30 years of your life where you are just dedicated to those children. If you're not ready for that kind of dedication, you should be very hesitant on starting on that journey. It should give you pause, because those kids will need you, and they need you to be their leader. That's what family's about. Family isn't about just, I hatched an egg here, now I got this duck following me all over the farm, and I feed it whenever it's hungry, and then once it gets its wings, I kick it out of the nest. Hopefully you don't get eaten by foxes, little buddy. That's the wrong mindset. And it sets up these cultures of selfishness. One culture of selfishness that I see a lot is with retired people. They've worked really hard, and they spent so much of their time and energy just giving their children a soft life, but not training their children, and not spending the time, and not setting up the proper culture. So they've got their retirement saved. They retire, and now they don't want to work at all. They don't really even want to help their kids. Possibly, when you're grown adults have children, you could step in and help with this or that. But most of they're like, nope. I went through all of that. It's all on you now. It's your responsibility. I had to do it. Now you do it. That comes from selfishness. It'd be better. It could start with you. You might be the first generation in your family, but it can start with you. You could make a change, and you could set up a culture with your spouse and your children where you take care of each other. All of you. If there's a struggle in the family, everybody pulls together and helps unselfishly. That could be a great and wonderful tradition you could pass on. So if you want responsible adults, it all starts with you. Think it through before you have your children. Stop letting your mind go down that path of, I would like to get away for a week. I'd like to go lay in the motel for a week. I'd like my husband to treat me. You know what? My wife and I, we dated for 4 years before I finally felt like I was stable enough to be able to marry her and build a home and be ready for children. We had plenty of dating, plenty of alone time. We were ready for kids. We wanted kids. Now that we have kids, we don't look for ways out. We don't look for an out. Let's go have fun over here. Let's go have fun over there. Let's just drop the kids off here and go party and drinking for a night. And then we'll be hung over all weekend and our kids have to deal with grumpy and hungover parents. That really is a shame as a parent. Then your kids will be teenagers and they'll get drunk and hungover, and then you're going to get mad at them for laying around all weekend hungover because that's what they saw you do. So, if you're going to have children and a family and a spouse, accept that responsibility 100%. True romance you will not fall into. You will fall into passion. Passion can and will lead you down paths of misery if you only give in to the passion and the feelings that you have. It is good to have passion. It is good to have feelings. But it has to be accompanied by rational thought if you don't want to spend all of your life scrambling around and miserable because your passions have led you down path after path after path of misery because you didn't think it through. Because that person's hot and you followed your passions. Ooh, so sexy. And you didn't really think, hey, I don't really even like to have a conversation with this person. And then, oops, we had a child. Oh, we should get married because we can stand each other and we don't mind living together. That's a terrible way to start a relationship. So passion is good, but you can also be passionate about raising a family. You can be passionate about your wife and also be practical. And sexual desire and passion is going to, if that is all your relationship is based on, it's not going to last unless you can change the way you feel about each other. But if that's all you had and that's all you start with, and you don't have any rational thought going into your relationship, it's all about the desire and the sexual desire, you're going to be in for a really hard time because you're going to see each other at your absolute worst when you're married. You're going to see people dirty, smelly breath, all kinds of things. So if you don't like that person as an individual, really, really like them, good luck. So, I got a little long-winded on that one, but I thought it was a very good message, and it's something my wife and I are very, very passionate about. Don't neglect your children because you need a night away. Find out how to set up a culture in your own home where you love to be with your children. And you and your wife can be romantic with other people in the room. It's funny. I can't be romantic with my kids around. It's weird. But you go to a restaurant where there's a bunch of strangers staring at you and you can be romantic there. Anyway, you all have a good day.